Welcome everyone. My name is Samantha Oakley from ALA's Public Programs Office. I'm pleased to introduce today's webinar with Megan Millen and Denise Zielinski from Joliet Public Library. In this session, Megan and Denise will be talking about their annual Star Wars Day program, which won this year's Excellence in Library Programming Award. Before we start, I'd like to make a few quick announcements. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with support from ALA's Cultural Communities Fund. To learn more about the Cultural Communities Fund or make a contribution, visit ala.org/CCF. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with Programming Librarian, a website of ALA's Public Programs Office. We have a lot of program ideas and an online learning library full of free webinars just like this one. Finally, a couple of notes about our virtual classroom. Only our presenters have microphone access, but you are welcome to type your questions or comments in the chat box. We will have time at the end for Q&A. Also, if you have any technical issues, please send a private message to Brian Russell, aka PPO Admin. To do so, hover over PPO Admin in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and click Start Private Chat. Now, I'd like to introduce our speakers for this afternoon. First up is Megan Millen. Megan has been a librarian since before the internet was a thing. She has been the executive director of Joliet Public Library in Illinois since November 2016, and prior to that was director of Flossmoor Public Library in Illinois since 2003. She has over 20 years of public library experience. Recently, Megan was appointed to the executive board of the Illinois Library Association and is the co-founder of Area Training for Librarians and Staff. Our second presenter for today is Denise. Denise is the Community Engagement Officer for the Joliet Public Library, a position which was created in 2015. During a library career spanning multiple decades, Denise has held a variety of library positions throughout the Chicagoland area. She holds an MLS from Rosary College, now Dominican University, and a BS in Library Science from Illinois State University. Professionally, Denise has presented programs for local, state, and national audiences on a wide range of topics, and she has served on various committees and award juries at both the state and national levels. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Millen, Executive Director of Joliet Public Library. You might be thinking that our huge program might not be doable in whatever library you're sitting in right now, that our budget is too big, and you could never replicate something like Star Wars Day. Well, we aren't here to tell you how to exactly replicate what we've done. We're here to show you how, with careful planning, we put on an event for 10,000 plus people this year that cost us less than $1,000 in hard costs, and to inspire you to think about what you can celebrate in your own communities. And now, Denise.
Hello, I'm Denise Zielinski, coordinator of Star Wars Day. Thanks for joining us. Once upon a time, a library in Joliet, Illinois, offered a little Star Wars program, little knowing that Star Wars Day would become the largest event held in downtown Joliet. Our digital media staff have documented the origins of our Star Wars Day in a short video.
(2010) Episode 1, A Little Star Wars Program. On a train commute, two people meet and discuss a movie franchise. From that meeting between a youth services librarian working in Joliet and an incognito Star Wars cosplayer, a free family event was born to bring children back to the library and encourage reading. In the city of Joliet, known for its prison and the Blues Brothers, a library presents a Star Wars-themed program for families. Taking control of the entire library, 16 characters from the 501st and Rebel Legions descended and brought a fictional galaxy to life.
I know you had to imagine the music there, okay? This is Denise, and that first year the program was planned by a staff member in youth services. Originally, this was seen as a small program for about 100 to 150 people, and we developed themed games and provided crafts for the kids. We had members of the 501st Legion, which is a Star Wars cosplay group, come, and they hosted a temporary tattoo parlor for us. The costumed cosplayers roamed the library, and then they interacted with guests. One of the games created by cosplay members was the very popular Trash Compactor game based on a scene in A New Hope. For this game, the kids had to locate one of 5 Star Wars dolls by searching through trash. Death Star Bowling featured 2 sets of pins, heavy-duty paper rolls, that were then knocked over with gray exercise balls. A third game was the Imperial Blaster Range. We used black netting that had various pictures drawn on it on plastic pieces, and the kids used blasters to shoot at them. We exceeded our expectations for attendance and considered the event a success. After the popularity of the previous year's event, staff realized that they needed to think bigger in terms of location, activities, and partnerships. We decided that we needed to expand outside of the library. By doing so, we were able to add live music, create more themed games and activities for kids, and host a costume contest. We added more games to the mix to eliminate the long lines to play. Providing crafts for 600 didn't seem feasible, so we needed to find another different activity. Artist Alley was born. With the assistance of one of the cosplayers, 2 well-respected George Lucas-approved illustrators attended, and they shared their drawings with the families. Representatives from Legoland provided Star Wars-themed Legos for the children to play with, and additional Lego sets to give away as prizes. The event grew. Now we were at 17 cosplayers and 1,500 Star Wars fans. Our attendance had more than doubled. We were thrilled with the interest, but we knew we needed more.
With attendance increasing each year, we found we needed to think bigger and still keep the goals for the event in mind. These were a family-friendly event, no charge to attend and participate, only Star Wars-related activities and merchandise. Encourage people to come back to the library by demonstrating what today's library has and does. Introduce people to a safe, clean downtown Joliet, and most importantly, have fun. In working with the cosplayers and their schedule, we realized we needed to set an annual date for this event. Couldn't be May the 4th, the traditional Star Wars day, because many of the cosplayers and artists went to children's hospitals. In addition, the weather in May in Illinois could still be cold and rainy that early in the season. So we chose the first Saturday in June, a date that was never too close to a holiday, was usually warm and hopefully not rainy, and the cosplayers didn't have competing events. Another advantage of a specific date was that we could close the event with the invitation to attend next year's program. Word of mouth, always our biggest marketing tool, was spreading. It was during this time that we had tremendous growth in attendance, 300%. Our little program was quickly becoming a mini Star Wars themed Comic-Con. It was at this time that we introduced a number of special touches to keep the small town feel of the event. A full-color glossy rat card for promotional purposes was introduced. An example is included in ALA's documents today. We added food and included the many restaurants that surround the library. The restaurants were thrilled with the amount of business sent their way. Something we called a Jedi Passport was launched. This informational brochure featured all of the information about what was occurring outside and inside the library. The library's big meeting room was transformed into the cantina scene from A New Hope. A parade was born during this time, too. It seems that the cosplayers were changing clothes and waiting around for the event to begin. The cosplay leader suggested everyone line up according to the group in an orderly fashion. They marched through the event and to the library's front lawn for an official photograph of all the cosplay members. This tradition has continued each year. Our Star Wars Day event has increased in attendance so much that we could no longer manage it by ourselves. What could we do? We began looking at other organizations in downtown Joliet for potential partners. We knew that this event was quickly becoming an economic engine for the downtown. We not only brought people here, but we also helped the local businesses and the local economy. With this knowledge, we looked to the Center for Economic Development. With more than double the number of people attending every year, who better to work with us as we continue to grow? At the same time, we were hearing from attendees and cosplayers that people were coming to Joliet from all over the Midwest. This meant more visitors and travelers, so with that in mind, we approached the local Convention and Visitors Bureau. They could help us with our marketing efforts in identifying additional partners. With the ever-increasing attendance and participation by Star Wars groups, we knew this event was more than just a little library program anymore, and we needed more help. And so our partnerships were born. The Friends of the Libraries had always provided some funding for the event, and were willing to continue to do so. The City of Joliet was working with us on some of the logistics and our special permits. The Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau provided marketing assistance and hotel rooms for cosplayers and others who were coming in from out of town. DK Publishing provided Star Wars books and t-shirts to use as prizes for the games. The Joliet Area Historical Museum provided space in the museum to host parts of the event, including themed programs and a scavenger hunt to draw visitors. At this stage, though, we realized consideration of the implications of copyright was needed. We were now producing and giving away art that could be considered copyright and trademark infringement. We didn't want to get into any legal troubles. After some research, we found that we needed to contact Lucasfilm Limited regarding the use of those Star Wars-related images we were using in our marketing materials. Now, each year, we send off our marketing and publicity items to Lucasfilm Fan Relations team for their approval. The team now knows us, and our submissions are usually quickly approved. We do make sure to give them at least 6 to 8 weeks lead time for those items. Once approved, we add the appropriate copyright information and send it off to be printed. We then send Lucasfilm copies of the print items for their records.
Excuse me. Space was a big concern at this time. We had outgrown our building and our lawn. We were now closing streets around the library. Our event was spreading. By 2015, we had approximately 10,000 people attending our event. We needed to consider our space needs. For that, we looked at other big events in Joliet and the space needed by those organizers. We needed space for all of the activities, but we also needed to control the crowds. Consider the possible bottlenecks, the aisles, the bathrooms, the trash, and where to pass out our new event passes and information. For us, we needed space for each of the games. They all required different amounts of space. The artists, they needed a space big enough to interact with kids, draw pictures, display their art, and have room for the waiting lines. Live music on stage. This also required some seating for the audience. The vendors. We had both food and merchandise vendors. Each had different space needs, and some needed to be located close to electricity. The tables for eating. When you have food, you need to have a place to eat. Directional signage and information stations were needed now. Restrooms and wash stations. Emergency exits needed to be kept clear, and aisle space needed to be maintained. And then we needed the program space. As you spread your event outside your library spaces, you might need to consider Consider what permits are necessary to hold a large event. We've listed a few here that might apply. When we took our event outside the library, we had to fill out some forms to have our event. In the beginning, this was just the special event and sound amplification forms. To complete the special event form, we had to look at our needs and our plans. For instance, for electricity, we scheduled the city electrician to turn everything on. For security, we used off-duty police officers in addition to our security team. For first aid and emergency services, we contacted the fire department to request an off-duty paramedic. For restrooms, we found a local provider and scheduled the delivery of mobile restrooms and a wash station. For garbage disposal, we ordered an extra dumpster and provided receptacles all over the event. When we added the portable stage and the large tent, we had to provide safety information and schedule a city inspection. We also had to work with the police department to schedule event street closures and to handle the rolling closures required for a parade route. Finally, once the paperwork is filled out and submitted, you have to be prepared for those last-minute questions and additional information requirements before you receive your permit. Infrastructure. It's that catch-all phrase for a lot of necessary items. Consider, okay, bathrooms. Do you have enough? Do you need more? Where should they be set up? What about wash stations? Do you need them? Hand sanitizer stations? ADA compliancy is a must. Don't forget about those accommodations. For our event, we had 4 restrooms at the museum, 7 restrooms at the library, and then another 4 mobile restrooms outside, including an ADA one and a wash station. For safety, you need to consider how are you going to keep everyone safe? Are you using private security or off-duty police officers? What about crowd control? Do you need them to help with that? Do you need help with your street closings? What about barricades? Do you want your security armed or not? These are all considerations. Let's talk garbage. I guarantee that if you have food being served, you will have garbage. Do you have a plan for removing it? Who's going to be removing the garbage receptacles when they're full? Do you need additional receptacles or dumpsters? Where should they be placed? For us, we put our dumpster out of sight and our receptacles all over the place. Do you have any of your vendors, do any of your vendors or your games or your locations, do they require electricity? How are they going to get it? And where are they going to get it from? Who do you contact regarding the need for electricity outside? How much is needed? I don't know about you, but I know nothing about amps. What about the cords? Who's responsible for bringing those? And what gauge do you need? Don't forget to keep those cords that are out there from being tripping hazards. If you're outside, what's the plan for inclement weather? We always have to have a plan for inclement weather. Is everyone under tents? Or do you bring it all inside? And if you bring it inside, where are you going to put it all? All of these questions need to be considered and answered before the day of your event. Does the library have everything you need? If not, you need to consider, can you borrow something from a partner? Do you need to rent? And how many tables, chairs, tents, and all that kind of stuff do you need? We track the number of tables, chairs, and tents that are needed for each vendor, each game, for each information station, and for the artists and authors and everybody involved. Do you have areas that need to be blocked off? Do you need barricades to do that? Or do you have something else that you can use? Will you have to rent those? Or can you get them?
Okay. As you spread your event out more, you're going to need help from somewhere. Where are you getting that help from? And how much do you need? What will they be doing? Consider looking for volunteers in church groups, scouting groups, civic organizations, volunteer arms of corporations, school groups, and your own friends group. We are constantly on the hunt for volunteers in addition to our own staff. For our event, it takes about 125 people to make the activities at the library run smoothly, provide breaks for everyone throughout the day, and share cold water on the hot day. Staffing is probably one of the hardest pieces to accurately anticipate. You want to have enough to get everything set up, to run various pieces of the event, and to efficiently tear down the setup. For most people, staying from setup to tearing down can be exhausting. If you can get fresh new people to show up to help clear up, then do it. They'll still have the energy the rest of the staff had when setting up and who no longer have it. For us, there's so much equipment, tables, chairs, stages, tents, electrical cords, garbage, etc. to clean up and put away that we just do the actual putting away of everything during the following week. We use a storefront near one of the streets to put all of our stuff into before the event, and then we shove it all back in there after the event. It means that the rented tables and chairs can be accessed easily for pickup, and our staff can put things away more methodically and efficiently this way for next year's event. So careful consideration goes into choosing your volunteers. They need to be reliable and dependable, and in many cases, they'll need a little instruction to be ready to handle their job ahead of time. We use almost all of our staff members for one part or another of the event. We usually pay part-time workers and give full-time workers time off later. Because they're paid staff, we need to make sure that they get their proper breaks and meals over the course of the event. And we're also giving them a food truck party later this month to thank them all for their hard work. It's important to thank your volunteers as well. We have a robust volunteer program, and some of them volunteer to help the event. We usually drag in a few family members, and some of our more reliable homeless patrons have actually volunteered, and other volunteers who need community service hours for school have volunteered as well. So during this period of really rapid growth, we need to determine what the budget is for the event and how the budget is determined. We'll take a look about this later in the presentation, but it is something to consider.
There have been many changes in these last 3 years, much having to do with the new leadership of both the event and the library. Both Megan and I came in during the last few years. Word about our event has grown within the Star Wars cosplaying community. We have had people from all over the country attend. Our artists now provide original art pieces each year. For the kids, there are the collectible trading cards that the artists will autograph for them. And you'll see one of the resources is the trading cards from 2018. We now have more than 200 cosplayers. In fact, at the 2018 event, a group from Nebraska came out to Joliet with their Star Wars tank. We had to make special arrangements for keeping the tank safe. These people get no money from us, not even for gas. They come once, and then they keep coming. They keep returning because they enjoyed the interaction with children and families. We also take care of them. We provide places for them to be off stage where they can relax and enjoy refreshments in a quiet space. For some of the out-of-town folks, we also provide a free hotel room courtesy of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our crowds have been coming year after year. Many wouldn't think of missing it. As time has passed, we have continued to keep the interactive nature of cosplay fresh. The characters provide their own photo opportunities, as you can see in these pictures. But you know what? We wanted more. Our team is great at creating, finding, or making photo opportunities. We started with the cantina scene set up in our meeting room. Since then, we've had Han Solo in carbonite, an Endor bunker, a variety of themed vehicles, a life-size talking Darth Vader, and a variety of droids from R2-D2 to BD-8. These all continue to be popular, and we actively look for more. In addition to photo opportunities, we are always on the lookout for more partners to add to the event. Recently, we added 5 new partners. The Joliet Slammers, a professional baseball team in the Frontier League, is one such partner. They attend our event to promote their Star Wars night, and they also share a golf cart with us for the day. Bicentennial Park, a cultural park nearby, is also involved with our event. Their improvisational troupe performs a new Star Wars-related interactive skit each year. Recently, we discovered a new food vendor who not only attended the event to sell, but they also provided a special dessert for the volunteers and cosplayers lunch for free. In exchange, we made his business an in-kind sponsor. The Rialto Square Theater, a beautiful, ornate theater a block from the library, became another partner. They hosted one of the cosplay groups, the Mandalorian Mercs, and then the Droid Builders Club. And they hosted one of our most popular games, the Jedi Training Academy, on their main stage. Imagine, the kids are up on stage and the parents are sitting in comfort and air conditioning. It's an awesome thing. The theater also used their marquee to promote our event. In addition, one of our merchandise vendors creates these replica lightsabers. We have made the vendor a sponsor of our Jedi Training Academy because they provide the cool lightsabers that the kids use in the game. They also provide lightsabers for our ribbon cutting ceremony to launch the parade. One of our vendors was selling his large inflatable Darth Vader. Doesn't everybody have one? He'd gotten it from Burger King, and after a few years had no place to store it or show it. We purchased it and used it inside the library before the event to promote Star Wars Day. On the day of the event, we moved it to the lawn as a draw for the event. A couple of years ago, we had the idea to produce a one-of-a-kind invitation for city council members. These invitations not only asked them to attend the event, but also offered them the opportunity to pour lemonade in the Star Wars cantina. Think volunteers. This first year, we gave them a 3D printing of the Millennium Falcon mounted on an invitation. 2 little boys dressed up as Star Wars characters, and they handed them out to each council member at a council meeting. The second year, we went bigger and better. We increased the number of invitations to include members of most of the boards of our collaborating organizations. Pictured here is the invitation that was printed on an aluminum cutout of Darth Vader's helmet, which is our logo for the event, and the invites were presented to City Council by 2 Wookiees, a stormtrooper, and Darth Maul. Everyone loved it, especially the kids in attendance, and we had a few more people coming to serve lemonade.
Okay, so as library director, I care a lot about the money piece. So between the library and the Friends of the Library, our budget for this event was at about $14,000. Sounds like a lot of money. However, once you begin looking at the infrastructure costs like bathrooms, tables, chairs, security and safety personnel, garbage, everything else, The budget barely provided enough to cover for these few expenses. We realized we needed to seriously fundraise if we wanted to continue to offer the activities, the free collectibles, and the logistics necessary for an event of this size. If we were to continue to provide this well-respected free event to 10,000 plus people, we needed to either cut costs or find funding. So we realized we needed to kick our fundraising into high gear efforts. We established a committee that included executives in all of our partner organizations and our library marketing coordinator. Then we reviewed the type of sponsorship opportunities that were offered by other Joliet event organizers. Next, we determined how much we needed to raise and the price tags on each opportunity. Before talking to sponsors, we needed to determine what that sponsor would get in exchange for providing funding. With the help of the library marketing coordinator, we were able to develop a schedule of publicity options, signage locations, and a sponsor announcement that pertained to the amount sponsored. We determined that our event had a lot to offer sponsors. They could reach 10,000 plus people in attendance, which is the largest downtown event Joliet offers. We provided a number of different marketing opportunities, from the rack card, informational brochure, directional signboards. Specific sponsorship signage was posted around, and there were verbal announcements from the main stage, and of course inclusion in all of our press releases and program guide. We gave them the opportunity, which was rare, to market to an audience that included adults, families, young professionals, teens, and more, all in one spot. So now that we had that all together, we were ready to talk to our sponsors. But where do you find sponsors? Well, we started with the easiest place, the vendors who work with the library. This was successful. They wanted to help, but most could only provide the funding for the smaller sponsorship opportunities. We needed to find sponsors with deeper pockets, but where did we look? We began looking at businesses in the downtown area and the Chamber of Commerce members. We found great luck with financial institutions and some local businesses that turned out to be large contributors. Denise attended business expos and other events and talked up Star Wars Day. We found some sponsors interested, but the timing wasn't right for them. They asked to be considered in the future, so we noted these and contacted them the next year. So we finally have had a success story. In 2018, the library budgeted $10,000 for the event, but we received approximately $9,100 in fundraising revenue and close to $5,000 in in-kind donations. This was an increase of more than 50% over the previous year. This year, our revenue for the event also increased because we charged our food vendors a small fee. After talking to them, we found that they were doing a huge business and could easily afford it. We're doing such a great job at publicity and marketing all this that we now have businesses contacting us to be a 2019 sponsor of the event. We're hoping to eventually make a little profit so we can turn it back around the following year for Star Wars.
Okay, this brings us to next year. We're already working on plans for 2019. I don't want to give away too much, but I can say that there will definitely be more characters roaming, more photo opportunities, and a number of Star Wars surprises. It is our 10th anniversary after all. We hope you can join us in Joliet on June 1st, 2019. It will definitely be an out-of-this-world galactic event you won't want to miss. We've got more information on this slide, including some internet links. The YouTube video, the third listing, is I strongly recommend watching it.
I think we have time.
Cool.
We could play it now. I think we have a little time. Samantha, can we do that?
Yep, I'll pop it up now.
I guess so.
I guess we can. No music.
Is it not coming through correctly? Okay.
And at this this is Denise, and we can take questions if you've got them.
Yeah.
I think some are coming in.
So yeah, we've had some come in, and it seems like one question that a lot of people are really interested in is what programs and events you do at your event that are super popular with attendees.
I think that's mostly the games, the different games that we have with a Star Wars theme. The three I mentioned, and then we do, trying to think. We have a a Wampa game where we have a great big Wampa, and in case you don't know what he looks like, he's a great big abominable snowman. And the idea is that the kids use lightsabers to knock his arm off.
The costume contest is really popular because it's the one event because people show up who aren't these cosplayers but are just have their own costumes on, and this is a chance with different kids' age groups that the artists come out to the stage and judge their homemade costumes. So that's become super popular, and then they win some original artwork if they are the chosen winner of the costume contest. We also have bands that now are playing like there's these bands out there, believe it or not, that play Star Wars theme music that they write, and they're pretty good. So we have bands outside that are getting to be popular.
I would say the other thing that's super popular is at the museum, they have a really good relationship with our congressman who used to work for Fermilab, and so he knows Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze comes and shows them all about cryogenics. And so that's been a very popular program. Maybe the dueling lightsaber. We have a couple of guys, I don't know, Darth Maul and somebody else who do duel. They show dueling.
Right. And the parade is very popular. Some people just come for the parade because it's gotten so big with vehicles, and it's they line up really early for the parade.
I have to say that's kind of weird because you think you see people out there for Christmas and the holiday parades, and then to see them sitting out there on the lawn, on the sidewalks, just parking up the places for later.
Could you also really quick mention the 3 games that you mentioned earlier in the presentation? I think we have a few people that came in late.
Any other questions, Samantha?
Yes, I can. One of them was a trash compactor game that has it features a whole room full of recycled garbage, boxes, foam, all sorts of things that are recycled. And we have 5 different dolls. We have a Princess Leia, a Han Solo, a Chewbacca, a Luke Skywalker, and then we have the monster. And they have to find a doll to basically get a prize. And we save our garbage from year to year. It's a lot of garbage we have in the attic. Then there's the Death Star Bowling. That one is not sure. Anyway, the Death Star Bowling features the pins were made of these really heavyweight paper rolls, and they've been painted to reflect characters either in the Empire or the Rebels. And then we got these great big exercise balls, gray ones, so that look like rocks, and the kids then throw them at the pins to knock them down. We kind of keep track and see who's going to win the battle this year. The last one was our blaster range. Our blaster range is basically a black net that has these plastic acrylic pictures of various things from Star Wars, and we use a Nerf gun painted black where we have Nerf bullets and all that kind of stuff, and they have to shoot them to shoot the targets, and that's the blaster range. And then for the Jedi Academy, the training academy that we have over at the Rialto, that has the kids have lightsabers and balloons. They have to keep the balloon in the air for like 2 minutes or something. Depending on how the crowds are, we change the time. If there's nobody, it's longer. If there's a lot of people, then it may be, a minute or so. But all good.
Great. We have a few other questions. So the first one that I've seen a couple of people ask is if you could talk more about the type of outreach and marketing you do, and if any particular outlet has been reached the largest audiences.
Okay, so along with our typical marketing, which is our website, we have a special page just for Star Wars Day. There's a Star Wars Facebook page that we have put out there that the 501st, our contact with him kind of did, but we now also have control of it so we can edit it as we see fit. That reaches the cosplaying community. But we have also partnered up with a lot of our local radio stations to do interviews with them at our local TV stations ahead of time to start promoting it. In the past, we've even put a billboard up on our local highway to advertise the event to get it out farther. Oh, and then also we have a local Comic-Con in Chicago called C2E2, and along with our the convention bureau that we work with, we have a booth at the C2E2 convention where we have some of the cosplayers come, and we sell the event there to the types of people who would be interested in something like Star Wars Day. So that's been a good marketing tool for us.
Great. Another question that I've seen a couple of people ask is if there's any specific copyright issues they should be aware of or concerned with if they're trying to do this type of program, even if it's like on a smaller scale than the larger scale that you do?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the tipping point is that would turn Lucas and Disney your way. We're definitely past that point. We're definitely on their radar. But a tiny program, I don't know. What do you think, Denise?
I would say if your program's probably, definitely under 1,000, I would say you're pretty much okay. It's not really going to be on their radar. But as you get larger, you definitely want them to know what you're doing. Yeah. Because I have heard that they have shut down some places because of copyright infringement.
I've heard too now that Harry Potter and that whole thing, it's starting to crack down a little bit too, so I'd be careful about some of those Harry Potter programs that are larger. Also, better safe than sorry, I guess, is my advice.
That's a good point, Megan, because what we've done here can be recreated for Marvel characters, for Avengers, for almost any kind of program that you want to do.
And Star Bradley is wondering if there's a specific person or department that they should contact at Lucasfilms for copyright issues.
It's their fan relations team. And if you go up on the website, you can find the contact information for them. But that's what they call themselves, the fan relations team.
And it looks like we have a few other people typing. In the meantime, I see a lot of you sharing your contact information and wanting to do program swaps. That's fantastic. I would also recommend as a resource the Programming Librarian Interest Group, which is on Facebook. It's entirely led and coordinated by a group of librarians. So if you're not a member of that, they are a great resource for sharing and also asking questions. And we'll give it a few more minutes in case anyone else has any questions, or feel free to retype your question if I might have missed any in the chat box. Carrie is wondering what your favorite part of the event is as host.
You're muted.
For me, I think it's the interaction with the cosplayers. Just because, I mean, at this last year, I was chaperoning a Wookiee who needed to get from one place to another place in 2 minutes. And because our event is so big, it's very hard to do with all the people. And so he kept stopping to interact, and it was just really cool to watch. And they really, really stay in character. So you got a Wookiee, you don't hear him talk. Okay? So it's not like he can say, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And they don't usually have a person trailing with them either. So I think that's really cool. So.
Okay. And for me, this is Megan. As the library director, I am just delighted to see the scores of people coming through the library on that day and all on the streets and everywhere, and know they're coming for this event that we created, and just seeing the delight on the children's faces when they get to interact with these characters and pose for pictures. It's just, there's nothing bad about the event. The whole thing is a feel-good from the beginning to the end. Even though it's stressful and it takes a lot of work and a lot of planning, a lot of committee meetings, that's another thing we didn't mention, is that we start start planning for this very soon after the last one ends. It's always going on, and we have staff committees, but we also have community committees. It's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it day of when you see how happy it makes people. It's one of those cultural phenomenons that spans generations. It spans cultures. We have a large Spanish community. They love it too. We're all together on that day, all loving Star Wars. So that's my favorite part.
Great. And then Erin is wondering what the size of your library is.
We serve a population of about 150,000 people, and our building's about 96,000 square feet, about.
But Joliet is a very unique community, because where we are is a very urban area, where our branch is very suburban. So we've got both kinds of clients and everything here. And I put up, by the way, I just went back to the pictures that we have. You can see the trash compactor. You can see somebody shooting at the blaster range, and the big ball that we have for the Death Star bowling. And if you look at the bottom right, that little boy and the droid, that is probably one of our favorite pictures that we use in a lot of publicity, because it just expresses the day. It's a day full of wonder.
Great. And then tacking on to the question about the size of your library, how many full-time employees do you have?
Well, we have 110 total employees. I'm not sure about full-time. Denise, do you know?
I don't know exactly, but I would say we're probably like 2/3 part-time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Great. And then do you have
excuse me. You have to understand too that while this event is going on, the library is open. We may not do a lot of library business, but we are open for the public too. So we've got people that are actually manning desks and staffing desks and handling the routines of being a library.
And then we had one person wondering if you have the contact information for the people in Nebraska with a tank that you could share.
You know what? Excuse me. My contact with the cosplayers is the person who has that, so no, I don't. I'm working on getting some more contact information for people.
Okay. And then Garrett is wondering how obvious to participants is it that this is a library event?
It's on all of the publicity. It says library event. We push that. It's very easy for the city of Joliet to kind of put the mantle on them, when in reality they have a small part to play. So we work hard to maintain that this is a library event, despite how it takes over the whole downtown that day.
The other piece that I would have to say is that the library is the center. If you look at the map, we're the center of the event. And I think that kind of gives an idea that it's a library event too.
Great. And then we have one more question. It looks like Molly is wondering if you have any games or activities for adults.
Yes, this past year we did. We set up a Star Wars trivia wheel.
Yeah.
And the adults were all over that, along with the teens. It was an awesome thing to see them all engaged like that.
Great. Do we have any more questions for the final 5 minutes? While you guys are thinking, I We'll mention really quick that we are accepting submissions now for the Excellence in Library Programming Award, which Joliet Public Library won this year, as mentioned, for this particular program. So if you're interested in applying, the link is on your screen now, and you can visit that for more information.
This is Denise, and if anybody has questions afterwards, you're more than likely, or more than, we're
welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, there's our contact information. If I can help you, I will, or I'm sure Megan would too. So,
yeah.
Great, thank you both. And it looks like Rachel has a question. Do you get any pushback from stakeholders regarding this not being a library-centric program and that it's not necessarily books or literacy related?
Well, we actually do make it literacy related. There's a large body of Star Wars books, apparently, that people write about the Star Wars universe. So we have a very large collection at Joliet Public Library of these items, and so we have lots of book displays, and other sci-fi kind of is tied in. So we do make it a literary event, and we really don't get any pushback from anybody about it. Everyone thinks it's a great thing.
Yeah, and most of that stuff is checked out before the event. So it's very hard to have our displays up on the day of the event.
Right.
Oh, and I can give away this one secret for next year. One of the things we're talking about doing is having a stormtrooper do a story time.
I don't know how that'll work.
I'm not sure. I think it would be easier than the Wookiee.
That's awesome. Even though I would be interested in listening to a Wookiee read a book. Marcia is wondering if the games you mentioned are written out anywhere.
I do have them. I do have the directions for all of our games. And I'd be willing, I can share that. Just contact me.
That'd be great. Yeah. And I put back up Megan and Denise's contact information on the screen.
Rachel, that's a great idea. I may have to steal that.
Great. So it looks like the questions have pretty much run dry, so we'll let everyone go. I would just like to say a huge thank you to Megan and Denise for this presentation, and to my colleagues behind the scenes, Brian Russell and Sarah Osman, for their support on this webinar. This presentation has been offered as part of Programming Librarian's free online learning with support from the Cultural Communities Fund. The archived version of the session will be available to view on programminglibrarian.org within 24 hours of this webinar. And also, I will just push to please complete the webinar survey, which I just posted in the chat box, and we will also send that out with a link to the archived version of the webinar in an email afterwards. So thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you.